Abalin get some lola ya some legislation to shui yin, nga juju ko zang gen zo yin. Tarin ye dong yu seng en da ju wei ci sum re sa ba sang ge ning de le. Tarin pi mi dik zu ge da ge nang ne zu be se da che na, ben den Sikyong Penpa Tsering cho, Canada tu zo tu mi ka ji dang je de, tang ya na shung ge pe nang chi zu che be me si bi yu den ja, lob de ko sa ge se da be be, ne zu den be nang wa shik ku be nyun de shu ge yin. Penpa Sikyong Penpa Tsering cho ki Canada tu zo tu mi ka ji dang je de tang kya na shung ki pe nang chin zu che bi me si bi yu den ja lob de kor sar ko se da pe wa. Dayang pi mi dik zu ki Penpa Sikyong Penpa Tsering cho ki pe dun ti da ki le dun la shung ne tang pe dun gyab gyor tab zu le chi zi jik resa lak pe yin Canada gyasa Ottawa Canada tu zo tu mi dang shung de turi mi na sar ko ba so dang je de ki jeno ko sa kyam ko chim bu cho ki gu yang si ki ne de dang pe nang ki do mi top dang ki ne dang te shu du dang ga du rim ba na we che Canada tu zo tu mi pe de gyab gyor cho be so so ku shap James Meloni la ki ku di nang we so de to Penpa Sikyong cho pip shu ki Canada tu zo tu mi Yaban Baker La Tang, Tuzo Tumi, Karim Badisi La, Tuzo Tumi, Deri Shahan La, Tuzo Tumi, Elizabeth Men La, Tang Je, Jete Nang Yoba Mase, Gungmi Suzi, Kenneth Quebec Kwai, Tuzo Tumi, Frankie His Belenchik Chotang, Tuzo Tumi, Alexis Bernal La che sosur je de nang de jeno ko sa kyam gu chen bu cho gi mong gu yang si ngün ji nang gor chi si xiong kha ne ti ji me yong wa tang pe nang gi ro mi top dang sung gu chue me lam ne pe ge ka nyo shi di yong le ge ji ji zo ne tu gur yong bi shu gu dang ge dur nang yu tu mi ga ne ji ne la tang chue zo tu mi Alexis Bernal la tuzo tumi Karim Badisi la Canada pedin lenzo ki lobden ba Charles Burden la so ne kyang yana shung ki pe nang chi zu che bi meser bi yu den ja lobder tu zap den yu Canada 참시 디 최 Penpa Sikyong Penpa Tsering cho dang lendo chang eri kuzab tunje bumrum ba 남게 주투블라당 시리 레군기 통지 직면 남게라 게지 표된 레구 관계 긴지 땡주 가솔라 캐나다의 표된 렌조기 긴지 셰럽 터진라 제 렌저 유도 생계 넘버조 선주 년도시 심바인 디셈블라야 토제체 전에 쉬어당 샴라 Penpa Sikyong Penpa Tsering 초기 야나 슝기 표능 친수 제비 메시리 비유 된자 롭데 고 서클 세다기 송셰디 생로당 생계 넘버조 디 송셰디 인게능 힘버리도
Bonjour. Today we are gathered here in the press gallery to shed light on the ongoing cultural genocide taking place in Tibet. What the CCP calls the Tibetan Autonomous Region, though in reality there is neither autonomy nor freedom. We are honored to welcome Sikyong Tsering, the president of the Central Tibetan Administration, known to many as the Tibetan government in exile, headquartered in Dharamsala, India. We also are pleased to have representatives from all three main political parties with us today. In addition, we are joined by respected expert Dr. Charles Burton, who will close out the press conference before questions from the media. This year, 2025, is one of both celebration and caution. In July, we marked the 90th birthday of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, a global leader who has always advocated for freedom and democracy through peaceful means. His message of truth, compassion, and universality continues to inspire millions, even as he remains a constant irritant to the Chinese Communist Party. Here on Canadian soil, the CCP has sanctioned Dr. Burton and the CTA, and also Tibetans. This is yet another reminder of China's transnational repression here inside Canada. On Tuesday, Canada marked Truth and Reconciliation Day, a time to reflect on the suffering of Indigenous Canadians, including the 150,000 children forced into residential schools over more than a century. They were made to surrender their culture, their language, and their beliefs. This amounted to cultural genocide. Today, the CCP has taken time and the same model and applied it in even greater intensity in both Tibet and Xinjiang. There's nearly 1 million Tibetan children that are removed each year and into these state-run schools, designed to erase their culture and their faith. This is what the Sikyong, Penpa, Tsering is here to tell parliamentarians about and to call for collective action. Canada can no longer blindly negotiate trade deals with a nation that is committed to the cultural and religious genocide of Tibetans, Uyghurs, and the 50 other minorities inside the borders of China. Without further ado, I am honored to introduce the President of the Central Tibetan Administration, and after all, Tibet is Tibet. Thank you.
Want me to speak first? Brothers and sisters of Canada, I came on Monday, and Tuesday happened to be the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation of what happened in Canada with the residential schools, with the theme of every child matters, every child do matter. And Canada has gone through these kind of experiences in your history, and you have now realized that this was the wrong thing to do. And the events that were organized on Tuesday, for me personally, it was quite relieving that the government of Canada and the people of Canada realized the truth of what happened, recognized the truth, and then tried to reconcile the indifferences or the differences that were there, and then move forward. Of course, what happened in the past cannot be undone, but we can definitely look forward to a better future. I really appreciate the Canadian government and the people of Canada for recognizing the truth and then willing to reconcile and to live in harmony with each other. But unfortunately, of course, this will also help heal the mental wounds of people who have gone through all these sufferings. Unfortunately, the same thing is happening in Tibet today. When you ask the Chinese government why colonial-style boarding schools in Tibet, and they point out to Canada and say, what did Canada do to its First Nation people, or the Americans with the natives, or the Australians with the Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islanders, or the New Zealanders with the Maoris, and even Sami people in the Scandinavian region. So what they say and what they mean is they know what these countries did, and now they are deliberately, knowingly doing it to the Tibetans to eradicate our language, our identity, all our language and religion, which forms a bedrock of Tibetan identity. Just to give you an overview, we have never, ever been subjugated by any other foreign power, including China, till Communist China invaded Tibet. And we have a very rich civilization. Tibet is located in a very strategic location in Central Asia with borders with so many countries, and we lived in peace with all our neighbors through the centuries. The plateau of Tibet came up as a tectonic shift because of the tectonic shift between the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate, and it's the highest plateau in the world. We always lived in the mountains. The average altitude of Tibet is about 16,000 feet. When you think about Tibet, it's not easy to come to travel to Tibet, or it's not easy for Tibetans also to travel out of Tibet. So we remained isolated for very long, but we have maintained our values. Tibetans are devout Buddhists for the last 1,300 years. We have a language that is one among the 15 oldest languages in this world today, and we have a dictionary with 223 volumes that speaks for the importance of Tibetan language. The geostrategic importance of Tibet is not only important for Tibet in that region, but for the whole region. And then the environmental importance of Tibet is also not only for the Tibetans, but for the whole region and for the whole world. And we have a culture that promotes peace and nonviolence and harmony. And these messages are manifested in the form of His Holiness to the world. Of course, we lost our country. It was a bad thing for us. But the world gained the Dalai Lama. And as Dean mentioned just now, we just celebrated His Holiness' 90th birthday. And His Holiness is one of the very few people who have been honored by the Canadian government as an honorary citizen. We are thankful to the Governor General for sending a message on His Holiness' 90th birthday, and I'm sure everybody by now knows that His Holiness has decided to continue the Ganden Podang Trust of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who will also be responsible for choosing his reincarnations in the future, and His Holiness has also confirmed that his lineage will continue. But one thing the international community has to understand is when we talk about reincarnation, that happens only after the death of the person. So His Holiness keeps saying, I will live for another 2 decades and more. Since this Tibetan New Year, His Holiness says, I'll live up to 130 years of age. And I keep telling the Chinese, this message is for you, because you are waiting for this Dalai Lama to die. But His Holiness keeps saying that he will live long. So let us see whether His Holiness the Dalai Lama outlives the Communist Party or the Communist Party outlives His Holiness. And I also want to leave you with this thought that some of my friends say the dragon is biting at us. So I tell them, dragon at one time was very weak. Who made the dragon so powerful to be able to bite at you? It's the United States, it's the European Union, it's Japan, it's Taiwan. All the countries who have been involved in making China for what it's today. But now, knowing that the dragon is biting at you, if you still keep feeding the dragon, then whose fault is it? I think there are plans for recalibration of relations with China by the Canadian government and improved trade relations. But if you look at the 2024 numbers, then you can see that the total trade of 87 billion, Canada exports only 30 billion and imports 57 billion. So you have a trade deficit, huge trade deficit, 87 billion. So you have a trade deficit of 57 billion with the Chinese. And with improved trade relations, now you will have to watch whether you are going to buy more from China or you're going to sell more to China, which is beneficial to Canada, not buying more from China and enriching China to carry out all the things they have been doing with Belt and Road initiatives, creating dead economies, and exacerbating the whole political situation in the region. Because of China's activities, defense expenses of all the countries in the region have increased. So China should take responsibility for this and stop its hegemonistic and colonial mindset and give freedom to its people. And in this 21st century, everybody should be able to live in dignity and in freedom, and that's all we are asking for through the middle way. We are not asking for independence or separation from China, but we are willing to live with the Chinese people. We have lived with the Chinese for centuries. Even if we don't have an Indian mythological god like Hanuman, who's supposed to have the power to lift mountains. So we don't have a Hanuman to lift Tibet out of that place and put it somewhere in the Atlantic or Pacific near Canada. Whenever we get to go back, we have to live with the Chinese. We have to live with the Nepalese, Bhutanese, Indians as our neighbors. So why not live in peace with each other as neighbors? And that is all we are asking for, nothing more. And there's nobody that we can appeal to. The UN is the most undemocratic institution in the world. It cannot implement its own resolutions. That is why we reach out to governments like Canada, whose foreign policy pillars are based on Canada's security, prosperity, and values. So Canada's values are rooted in democracy, in freedom, and that is what we are asking your help for from the government, and also some financial assistance for education, because education is being impacted in Tibet. And if this goes on, the colonial-style boarding schools in Tibet goes on for another 2-3 decades, it's going to be very, very detrimental and consequential for the Tibetans, because one whole generation of Tibetans would be turned into Chinese. And that is a very, very frightening consequence that we are looking at. And since you have stopped the residential schools and are trying to make up for it, and please make sure that it does not happen in any other part of the world, including Tibet. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Brother.
Okay, well, thank you very much.